Coach, just what are your thoughts, assessment on Purdue's Braden Smith as a player, point guard?
Uh, First team All-American, um, basketball IQ off the charts, great in pick and rolls, great in um, getting to his strength, his pull-up game, um, great at getting to the free throw line because he has an unbelievable shot fake where it will really test your discipline, not going for it. But he's crafty. Um, He's tough, man. We just played the Nemhart kid from Gonzaga, and then now we're playing Braden Smith, and he's, arguably the best point guard in the nation. So a lot of respect for that young man.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Chris Baldwin with Paper City, Houston, please. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Calvin. Um, Playing Purdue in Indianapolis a few years after playing Auburn in Alabama, do you think number one seed should be better protected geography wise? And how do you look at that?
I look at that as we're in the Sweet 16, and our next game is Purdue. Our focus is on doing the best job we can to prepare our kids to play Purdue Friday night at 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to our next question here. I don't see any hands in the chat. Are there any other does anyone else have questions for Coach? We'll go back to Chris Gardner, please. Chris, please go ahead. Chris, can you hear me?
There we go.
There
All
you go,
right,
sir.
Coach, how long have you known Coach Matt Painter, and just your thoughts on the job he's done at Purdue?
Um, well, I've known Matt a long time. Um, Nike always did a great job of every summer we go on these Nike trips for all the coaches and their wives. Coach good. I think the first time I coached against Purdue was mid 90s, late 95, 96, 97. But Gene Katie was the coach. And I remember Matt was his assistant. And then coached against Matt since he's been at Purdue. He's one of the best coaches in the game. His Purdue basketball is a great brand. Their consistency, their toughness. They've always played a basketball purist brand of basketball. So, ton of respect for Matt, ton of respect for the Purdue program.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle. Joseph, please go ahead.
Morning, Kelvin.
Morning.
Speaking of those Nike trips, and seeing that who's else is in the region that you're going to play this weekend, Rick Barnes, Karen was telling stories about you, Rick, Tubby, John, all growing up in that sort of same area or close by, but just some of the interactions you had. Rick jumping into the water and knocking Tubby over, just stuff like that. Do with Rick in the other side of the bracket, do you just see how close that group that you guys have been over the years, and just the fact that y'all came from such that small area, and went to school around there, whether it's Lenore Rhyme or Pembroke?
Pembroke.
Pembroke.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rick and I have known each other. I think Rick was a junior, I think, when I was a freshman. I think that's right. And we played Lenore Ryan in Hickory. It was a scrimmage. Back then, practice always started on October 15th, and you didn't play your games after Thanksgiving. But all the small colleges in North Carolina, you drive over to that school on a Friday, and everybody had this room where it had bunk beds. People would come and scrimmage us at Pembroke, and they'd spend Friday. We'd do some on Friday, spend Friday night, scrimmage on Saturday, and then they drive home. Remember doing that at Lenore Ryan with Rick. Um, Tubby was a senior in college when I was a senior in high school. But I remember watching Tubby at High Point, and Rick is from Hickory. They used to call him Little Ricky from Hickory. But he and his wife Candy are dear friends of Karen and mine. And believe it or not, John Calipari spent a year at UNC Wilmington. They were all NAI District 26 schools back then. Then he transferred to Clarion in Pittsburgh, where he was from. But it's amazing how many guys came through that area and got their coaching start. Bobby Lutz was a head coach at UNC Charlotte, went to school at Pfeiffer. That was in that conference. So just really proud to be from that part of North Carolina. We all had coaches that we looked up to and idolized, and they helped us along the way. But all these years later, from the mid 70s now to the 2025, Tubby and I remain close. We still spend a lot of time with each other in the summers. Rick, talked to Rick throughout the season. He may call for different reasons. I'll call him. Cal, Tom Izzo. Tom and I are really good friends. So been blessed to have a lot of really good friends that are still coaching. There's not many of us left.
Thank you, Joseph. We'll go to Chancellor Johnson, please. Chancellor, please go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Kelvin.
Good morning.
Hey, so look at the teams within your region. I noticed that, or I saw a stat from actually Dorothy put it out that no other team has to travel more than 400 miles. I know this isn't an excuse making the program, but what is the reality of playing in these tournament games where they're obviously supposed to be neutral, but obviously the teams might be closer than others. What is the reality of those, and how might your success on the road this year help you in a situation like this
But
weekend?
I'm not the person to ask about that. I didn't make the rules. I noticed in our bracket that Gonzaga and Houston were playing in Wichita, Kansas. And whoever won that game would be going to Indianapolis to play the winner of the other bracket that went to Indianapolis. So, I mean, I don't talk to my team about that stuff. I mean, we're playing a really good team. In Purdue, they'd be tough to beat no matter where we played them. But we just got a tremendous challenge in front of us, and we're going to focus on doing that the best we can, and we're going to play a really good team Friday night. Those are things that we can control, and that's what I'll focus on.
Thank you, Chancellor. We'll go to Christy Reekin with the Associated Press. Christy, please go ahead with your question for Coach.
Hey, Coach, obviously we can all look at the stats and see what your team's strengths are on paper, but I was wondering from someone on the inside that's with these guys all the time, what do you consider to be your team's biggest strength?
I think one of the things that we're pretty good at is understanding who we are and how we need to win the game. Every good team, has a means to an end. Whether that's your culture, how close your kids are, your best players being really, really high character guys that care more about winning than statistics. I think we're really good in all those areas. every coach has a way that he wants to coach his team. You have a vision for the way you would like for your team to look. And so when I get a hold of our new team in June, it's the process starts. But it is a process. They have to go through it. And the kids that come back year after year after year, I've always appreciated their toughness and their patience, and having to wait for the new guys to catch up to them. Sometimes that happens in late November, sometimes it happens in December, but everybody has to, the new guys coming in don't start where the returning guys are. They just have to catch up. So that's why I've never really worried about games in November. There's no such thing as great wins or disappointing losses to me. But then again, I'm just a coach.
We'll go back to Chris Baldwin, please. Chris, please go ahead.
Kelvin, what is it about Malik that gives you such confidence, playing him down the stretch of these games? And what does his toughness, give to this group?
Malik is has great intangibles. Intangibles is you either have it or you don't. When we recruited Malik out of high school all those years ago, when he was, I can't even remember the name of the AAU team, but I remember sitting and watching him with Qantas, and seemed like he got every rebound. Guys that get rebounds are usually where the ball is. This is not a science project. Wherever the ball is, Malik seemed to be there, and he's off the court. He's just such a sweetheart of a kid. On the court, he's got a little killer in him. He's very quick twitch, very athletic. But there's a lot of athletic kids that never rebound. There's a lot of athletic kids that the only time they look athletic is in a dunk contest. It doesn't always translate to sitting in a stance and moving your feet, or being the first one on the floor after a loose ball, or getting 5 or 6 deflections every day in practice and see that carry over to games. What you guys see 30 plus times a year, I see 140 times a year. The way Malik plays in a game is exactly the way he practices, and he had to learn to do that. He did not come in here with that consistency of effort in practice, but because he's such a great kid and such a great teammate, this program has really helped him in all the areas he needed help in.
Thank you. We'll go back to Chancellor Johnson, please. Chancellor, go ahead.
Hey, Kelvin, we've seen a trend of more teams and programs deciding to foul while up 3 late. You guys had an opportunity to do so, and you elected to play it out, and it was executed perfectly. I'm just curious, what's your philosophy on that, and what goes in that decision to do it versus not doing it for you personally?
I don't have I'm not against fouling there. But I see the game through my lens, and I'm certainly not perfect. I make a ton of mistakes all the time. You always have things you wish you could have done better, or wish you were better at as a coach. When I look at when I'm grading film or writing down things we need to get better at, I always start with things I need to get better at. All these years later, I still hold myself accountable for things, and I'd like to think I've gotten better because I realize I need to. But fouling down 3, that's a difficult choice. I think they got the ball back around 14 seconds. That's too early. And now, because it's too early, you say, okay, we'll foul at 10 or foul at 9. When you're playing against a veteran team and you go to foul them at 9, and the next thing they see you coming with the foul and they throw the ball up, and let's say it goes in and you did foul them. Now that's a 4-point play. Or he sees you come, you're trying to foul, and he just shoots the ball. You never know what a referee's reaction is going to be. So it's got to be a scenario during the game where it fits perfectly into how you want it executed. Now we work on that. We spend, I wouldn't say every day. Every day is every day. We don't spend every day working on that, but we have late game situation things that we work on a lot. And one of them is how to foul and when to foul. For instance, last year we were playing Texas A&M, and the kid hit a 3. I think there's 1.2 seconds. When there's 1.2 seconds, somebody may say, "Well, why didn't you foul?" Well, that sounds good, but how exactly when are you going to do that? On the catch, he's in his shooting motion, right? As soon as he catches, he's in his shooting motion. So now instead of 2 shots, he gets 3. So now he makes 2. They're down 1. He misses. The ball gets batted out. Somebody catches it and throws one up, and you lose. So there's a lot of things that you have to factor in. But I think time and situation dictates a lot of it. Some coaches will foul every single time. Some will wait. Some will have to evaluate the situation and see whether it's worth it. And that situation the other night, I kind of felt they were going to go to battle, and he was going to have to come off his screen. So we just told our guys to switch up, which means when you switch up, you're switching into the dribble lane, which means you can't get it off. But it worked that time. You know, you're always fortunate when it does. And so very fortunate the other night it worked out for us.
Thank you, Chancellor. We'll go to Joseph Duarte next. Joseph, please go ahead.
Kelvin, this could apply to really any player on your roster, but I wanted to ask you specifically about the bigs. The play there at the end where JVA gets in position to be able to make a play and get his hand up enough and block it. Does that sort of embody what the big men aim and try to do in terms of those hustle plays and those defensive plays down the stretch when you guys need them?
Well, that's also goes into the category, Joseph, of late game situations. You know, if you're going to switch late game, you better know how to switch. You know, if your switch is lateral, you're giving them a chance to get the shot off. But you also have to make sure that in those situations you're not trying to block the shot. If you're in the right position and they do get it off, then sometimes they'll make an incredibly lucky shot, and somebody say, "Well, you should have did this, or you should have did that." Well, that's easy to say. As dumb as us coaches are, we've figured out what we should have done when it didn't work. But in that particular situation, they needed a 3. So we were not worried about any kind of roll. We were willing to let them roll or anything inside the paint we were going to give up. Anything outside the paint was going to be a switch to a switch up. And then when you switch up, now it's about getting as long as you can and staying vertical and not breaking the plane. So just imagine that Javier was in a phone booth and he jumped straight up without banging any of the walls. It was just straight up and straight down. But he had to be able to execute that. And if you go back and look at that film, Javier was perfect in his phone booth. He didn't go forward and hit the side of the phone booth, because had he gone forward, the referee might have called a foul. But I thought, and when you work on those situations, it's kind of like the game against South Florida, that we had a play that we had worked on many times. We'd worked on that that switch up where we stay inside the phone booth and don't hit the windows or the glass. You never know when you're going to need it. You know, they might have been down 5 there and it didn't apply. But when you do get in those situations, it helps to have gone over it. And sometimes it's monotonous. At the end of practice, kids are bored. Sometimes I say, you know what, the next practice, we're going to do it early in the practice so they pay more attention to it. So I think as a coach, you're always evaluating what you work on. You have to think outside the box sometime and say, this may occur, so let's work on this. And most of the time, those things never happen. But when it does, like that situation the other night, at least your kids are prepared. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but at least they're prepared.
We'll go back to Chris Baldwin, please. Chris, please go ahead with your question for Coach.
Kelvin, in Wichita, you said this team does more for you than you do for them, and that, I think you also said that you need them more than they need you. What did you mean by that? And
Well, I think this is very much a player-led team. Um, and I've kind of grown them that way. My best teams have always been player-led. But they have to get to that point where the players are holding each other accountable versus me. There's a difference in teaching responsibility versus accountability. If all you're doing is run around teaching accountability, and then you haven't done a very good job teaching responsibility. I'd rather teach them to be responsible. Now, once they're responsible for what they're required to do, you don't have to hold them accountable. But it starts with your leaders. And we've had some terrific leaders here over the years. And whether it was Fabian and Josh, Justin, Dejan, Marcus, Jamal, Nate Hinton. I mean, we've just had some terrific leaders. But, when we go recruiting, we don't recruit like you would think we do. It's just because somebody said he's a good player doesn't mean he can play here. A lot of kids that we don't recruit, our evaluation of them usually pans out when they go to the other school. There's a reason why we didn't recruit him. But the kids we do recruit are kids that want to be here and they know exactly what it is they're getting into. But they eventually become seniors and they become leaders. Galen was not a great leader when he got here. He had it in him, but he didn't have it. He had to develop that. And as a coach, once they get past the surrender stage, then now they start holding other people accountable because look what I'm doing every day. If I'm doing it, you got to do it. LJ didn't come in with that. Milo certainly didn't come in with that. J1 certainly didn't. But it's one of the things that I enjoy most about teaching kids, not coaching them, teaching them. Teaching kids how you want them to play and understanding what the bigger picture is a awesome responsibility that every coach has. And once you get them to that point, they got it. Doesn't mean they're going to win every game. When this tournament's over, there's only one team that's going to stand at the top of the mountain. Right now, there's 15 teams that are vying to be that one, 16 teams vying to be that one team. But because of, an unfriendly whistle, a bad bounce, missing a key 1-and-1, somebody throws in a Hail Mary, there's a million things that can go wrong. That's why you don't worry about stuff. I don't worry about where the game's played or who's got this or who's got that. I can't control any of that stuff. But I can control how we prepare. I can control our attitude toward competition today in practice. And I'm looking forward to practice today. So that's, I'm not smart enough to figure out half the stuff you guys talk about because I don't really think about it that way. I think about it, I look at the game through my lens, and that's about it.
Okay, time for a couple more questions. First one will go to Manav Gupta from College Basketball Review. Manav, please go ahead.
Coach Milo said at the end of the Gonzaga game that he's got to do a better job of taking care of the ball at the end. What did you see from him at the end of the game, and just thoughts on his first NCAA tournament, his first two games?
Going into the SIU game, you could tell his excitement. Most of our guys have played a lot of tournament games. Emmanuel, LJ, Javier. That was JoJo's first tournament, Terrence's first tournament, and Milos is in our main rotation. But Milos was really excited. I heard him say that when he was a little boy, he always wanted to play in the tournament, and this is his third year in college and his first time playing. But I always evaluate our point guard. I evaluate our point guards a lot on the scoreboard. Monav, his team's 2-0, so I think Milos did pretty good.
Thank you, Manav. Last question of the day, we'll go to Joseph Duarte again, please. Joseph, go ahead.
Kelvin, as of last night, I think the number was 500 kids entering the transfer portal on the first day. Is that timetable? It is what it is. Would you like to see it after the tournament, or do you like it? How it is right now?
I don't really care. Doesn't affect us one way or the other. We have a pretty good idea of what we're doing, and we just go through our own process. So it doesn't matter to me.